Hey guys, want to take a minute today and talk a little bit about kind of how to present your work. I'm Daniel Norton, I'm a photographer here in New York. I make videos like this about philosophy, about technique, about marketing, I guess, in this sense. And I got a question, actually, somebody sent me a DM and they said, during this period, like I'm a portrait photographer, but during this period, I'm shooting a lot of other things. Should I be putting those things on my Instagram or on my website or whatever if I like the pictures? And I guess my answer to that is, that depends, like most things, right? If you are trying to work commercially, and I made a video like this before, where I talked about this a bit before. If you're trying to work commercially, if that's like your plan, and you want to serve a certain market, it might not be in your best interest to put out photos that aren't that thing, at least not on your main site. But remember, Instagram feeds are free, right? I mean, if you start shooting, let's say, nature photography, and you're normally a portrait photographer, start another feed if you want, or put a section on your website that's separate, like maybe personal work, you can call it, or whatever, or maybe put it in your Instagram stories to start with to see how people react to it. If you're just somebody who's doing photography because you love it and you have a certain feed going on or whatever, then I think you're more open to put whatever you want on there. And also if you're a bit more established, you're in that position too. Because if people already know you and you already have a lot of followers, they might want to see something different from you. But if you're just kind of starting and you want to be known as something, remember that, I talked about this before, you don't want people to just be like, oh yeah, there's Daniel, he's a photographer. You want them to say, hey, there's Daniel, he's a portrait photographer. So in order to get that establishment, you need to basically show yourself doing that work. So it's a little bit of a tricky one, but what I would say is that you've got a few options. I mean, I'm never a fan of somebody's site, especially when, lots of bugs out here, especially when they're first starting and they have like a site that has 50,000 different like categories. I want to know what their deal is, right? So unless I already know who you are and I'm already going to your work, and then I might be interested in being like, oh wow, you do this too. I would try to stay focused when you're first starting or you're relatively new. Once you're established more, you can have separate portfolios on your main site that have various things. Or I would just say have a completely separate area where you put that stuff. So if you are mostly a portrait photographer, or let's say you shoot weddings or actors' headshots, or you do fashion, whatever it is, that's all really, that's the main thing you should be showcasing. Everything else you can do is in little samples. Like I said, if it's Instagram, I'd probably put it in stories. That's a good place to put it. You can also do, I haven't seen people do this in a while, but there used to be this hashtag that was called something like delete later, and people would throw pictures up that they were just kind of testing the waters with the idea that they would just go back and delete them. So you kind of can do that to test the waters. But I feel like if you've got a steady following looking for a certain thing, or especially if you're trying to market yourself for certain work, you probably want to stay a little more focused. So to answer that question, as always, it depends, right? But I would say, generally speaking, if you are new to semi-new, or you're commercially motivated, and you don't already have a good following, then I would probably stick with what you want to get as work. If you are doing it just because you love photography, put whatever you want up there. Or if you're very established, you could set it up as a secondary feed. That being said, the option of having a second page, is great. Like actually, I've seen this with people that, especially people who do one kind of art and then also do another. Like let's say you're a model, but you also are a photographer, and you're primarily known as a model. You wouldn't necessarily want to just start throwing your photography pictures on your page, because people are there to see you as a model, I mean, your fans or whatever on Instagram. So what I've seen people do is they'll put it in the description. They'll be like, check out my other page, and they'll put a link to their photography. So you can certainly do that. Have all your portraits, let's say if that's your main deal, on your Instagram page, and then in your description, put a link with the call sign. Is that what it's called? I don't even know what it's called. The at, for your other thing. Like if I was going to do food photography, I might have like Daniel's Food or whatever, and then I just put that in my description. That's probably the simplest way to do it. So hopefully that's helpful, guys. Let me know, any questions you guys have. I'm doing these videos every day, so I can be a little more specific with some of them, like this one. And hopefully that will help people. And I did get a request to do the thing that Joe McNally did, which is go through, sorry, the bugs are all over the place, go through some of my photo books. I don't have a lot of photo books, but I think I'll do a video this week where I'll pull out the books I have, and I'll kind of tell you why those are the ones I kept. So if there's something else you want to see, let me know. Go ahead and subscribe, guys, if you haven't already, and ring the bell so you get the notifications. And I'll see you tomorrow.